Hey guys, welcome back. I've got a K-Line B&M Berkshire here behind me today. And if you're thinking about one of the new Berkshires in the 2022 catalog, you are not going to want to miss this because this is the same tooling that Lionel is using today. So I'll show you some of the awesome detail this engine has to offer. We'll open it up and show you some of the improvements that Lionel's made, and then we'll run around the layout. So this engine was first released in the mid 2000s by K-Line. Lionel owns the tooling today, as I mentioned, and the quick story behind that is, in the mid 2000s, K-Line was trying to compete directly with Lionel in some of their higher end offerings. They really improved the quality of the products that they were making, and at the time, cruise control was the hot thing. So if they wanted to be competitive, they needed cruise control. Lionel had it with Odyssey, MTH had it with their DCS PS2 system, and so K-Line decided to build their own cruise control, and in that process, that directly violated their agreement with Lionel, which ultimately led to a lawsuit and the closing of K-Line. But Lionel picked up the tooling, and a lot of the tooling that we see today from Lionel is actually old K-Line tooling. So not all of it, obviously, but there are a few engines specifically. So things like the K4 that Lionel uses today is not actually the tooling that they used in the early 2000s from their K4. They use the K-Line tooling. Same thing with the Mikado and these Berkshires, as well as I'm sure some other engines. So if you wanted to pick up one of these engines at the time they were released, MSRP was $899 for cruise control, full TMCC engine, and the TMCC in this is just generic Rail Sounds 4. Now that board could easily be swapped out with a Rail Sounds 5 board if you're looking for a little bit better sound. So that's actually something that I will probably do at some point. If you were savvy, you might have picked this engine up after the K-Line closing because in their kind of bankruptcy, if I remember correctly, a third party came in and bought up all the K-Line inventory and then blew it out. So you could pick one of these up brand new for anywhere from $300 to $400. So one of the things that makes this engine so unique is actually that Coffin feed water heater you see here right below the marker lights. That gives it that really unique look. And that is prototypical. That is correct to the prototype. But to me, that is one of my favorite pieces of this engine. You can see here the pilot, we've got a lot of added on detail, a scale coupler. This can be swapped out with a dummy O-gauge coupler as well. And the placement of the bell is unique. There aren't too many engines that you see with the bell down that low. So I thought that was very cool. So moving down to the side of the engine here, you can see all the add-on detail is just fantastic. These are all separately applied. There is almost nothing cast into this. I mean, there's a couple, pieces maybe here that are cast in, but all this is all add-on and really looks terrific. So it's an awesome engine to display and run. It is a Berkshire with the 2/8/4 wheel arrangement there that you see. So 2 up front, 8 drive wheels, and 4 on the trailing truck. Now, this is the same wheel arrangement of, say, Nickel Plate Road 765, but this engine is much smaller. So even though the wheel arrangement is the same, for whatever reason, these style of Berkshires, so you see these in B&M, B&A, there's a demonstrator version out there, as well as some other road names, are much smaller, than the C&O and Nickel Plate Road 765 Berks. So I'll show you a side-by-side comparison here of, a Pacific or something else that is similar in size. So you can see here, this is actually a Lionel K4. This is the same tooling that K-Line used, as I mentioned. So this is a 4/6/2 wheel arrangement, so it does have one less set of drive wheels than the Berkshire, but you can see size-wise here, it is almost identical in size. I mean, from cab to the headlight and the front of the Berkshire here, they're almost identical in size. So if you're thinking about getting one of these from the Lionel catalog and you're thinking it's going to be similar to one of the larger Polar Express or Nickel Plate Road Berkshires, it is not. It is a little bit smaller engine, but in my opinion, I personally like this more than some of those other Berkshires. So moving on to the tender and the cab, there's not really a lot of detail or much to show in the cab. There are some figures in there. Now, unfortunately, this engine didn't have wireless tether at the time. That was really a Lionel exclusive. So it does have a wired tether here. Now, it is smaller than the great big MTH PS2 tethers that you see. I call those the Anaconda tethers. So it's not one of those, and it does not have a real coal load. So this is a cast-in coal load. It's one of the better ones in my opinion, but by today's standards, there really aren't many engines with casting coal loads. Now, at some point, I'll do a video on this, but there are ways that you can upgrade this by putting in your own coal load fairly easily. So I'll show you how I do that at another time. But on the back of the tender, we do have an electrocoupler, so that is standard, and I'll show you some of the sounds that this engine has in that generic Rail Sounds 4 sound set. All right, so just a quick piece here on the inside of the engine for those that are interested, because there's some differences here with what you see today. So this is a front-facing motor, and this is not the kind of the accepted standard. K-Line did this. I'm not sure why. I assume it was cost-cutting. You can see the cruise control module here, but these motors are, because they're front orientation, they are drastically undersized. This is really the size of like a diesel motor, maybe a little larger, but in a diesel you would usually have two. And so I'm not sure if they did that to make room for some of the electronics that maybe wouldn't fit in the tender, or what the reason was there, but it's an issue. So if you're thinking about buying one of these in the secondhand market, it's something to be aware of. If you've got steep grades on your layout and you're planning on pulling long trains, I would either change what you're planning to do or not purchase one of these engines. They're notorious for the motor overheating, especially with the cruise control really pulling on it, trying to keep it up to speed. So now Lionel did fix all that in the new legacy versions. They fixed them in the prior legacy release as well. So they have a larger Cannon motor that's rear facing back here. Now it's not a Pitman motor, but it is a Cannon motor. So they also will upgrade this old K-Line kind of puffer smoke unit. This is very outdated. I've thought about updating it, but I just don't know that I have the space here, to be honest. So maybe one day I'll get to that. The other difference with mine is I've installed Gunrunner John's chuff generator here to get 4 chuffs per revolution. The cherry switch on mine went, and I just decided to throw the chuff generator in there because that was what I had. So if you're going to get one of these on the secondhand market, it's going to have 2 chuffs per revolution, unless you get a legacy version, which would have 4. All right, so we've got this engine fired up here. We will listen to some of the sounds, and then I've got a nice Lionel B&M passenger car consist that we will use to pull around the layout and run this engine a bit. So let's listen.
Engineer, you may proceed on track 1.